Let's bring in our guest to see how she thinks he did. From Sarasota, Florida, trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg is with us. Alexis, there's an art to having to argue not only second-degree murder as what you say should be what this jury finds, but also mentioning that there is this lesser of manslaughter. Do you think that puts anything in this jury's mind? We've got a lot of different facts here about this toxic relationship.
I think he did a really good job, and I think the passion is good because it keeps the jury awake, for one. But he went through the different elements very well, and he attached the evidence that had been presented and gave them the heads up. This is going to be on the verdict form, and this is why you should find, this way opposed to the other way.
Looking forward to the defense, what would you focus in on? If you are representing Daisy here, she took the stand, talked about the domestic abuse within the relationship. How are you going to frame this? Because she did lie originally, and there's some issues with her conduct post-shooting.
Well, there's some issues with that, as well as how she was presenting herself in court. So I think it is an uphill battle for the defense, definitely. But the defense is going to have to stick with that it was self-defense and that she was in fear and he was a violent man and all of these other things were going on. That is really the only option that they have available. I don't think they're going to necessarily be successful on it, but that's what he's going to have to do.
She thinks about the defense and how they're going so far. It's going to be a lengthy closing argument. They got a lot of ground to cover, Alexis. But how do you think they are doing in terms of making this defendant more the victim than the person who's the villain in this story?
I think he's doing the best that he can, given the facts that he's been given. But here's the problem. Even if they had this toxic, violent relationship, remember, they have to, the prosecution has to prove that at that moment, and the defense has to say at that moment it wasn't self-defense. So, and they also have a big hurdle because I don't think she's very likable based on her behavior and comments that have come in either.
Yeah, it's a good point. But is he likable? And do you think that the jury's just going to throw their arms up and convict her because they don't like any of these players?
I don't think that the deceased is likable. I don't think the jury is liking the deceased. I think that it is believable that their relationship was violent, that allegation. But once again, was it self-defense at the moment that this happened? Not all the stuff leading up to this, but at that moment.
How much of what happened before, Alexis, plays into this? It sounds like the prosecution is trying to downplay what happened 5 days before. There's this allegation of a pistol whipping where she says Pedro pistol whipped her, but there's a text that Pedro sent to her saying, how are you going to pistol whip me right after you did it first and then I did it to you only afterwards? So it sounds like there's a lot of mutual combat here. How much of that for a juror will play into what happened in this moment? Because this didn't happen in a vacuum.
So I think for the jury, they are going to hear that. They're going to see that this woman, if you take what the defense is saying, was a severely traumatized, beaten, and battered woman on a regular basis and daily, if not every moment, she was in fear. And I think that if they can get the jury to believe that, but we have this other evidence coming in that she was the aggressor sometime as well.